for lovers only.
Hey, Robbie, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, pretty good. How about you?
Living the dream. Must be.
Good to see you.
Is it still winter down there?
Nah, hardly, man. It's like feels like a spring day today. Went in the ocean, didn't even put a jacket on when I got out. It's like, yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's nice and warm.
Oh,
What about you? Is it moving into winter?
oh, well, we got a little ways to go for that. No, we're coming up on fall. So
Yeah,
so September 1st. The somebody flips a switch and we go into fall,
there it is.
which is my favorite part of the year. Yeah. So
I think we only have two seasons here in Sydney. There's no real spring or autumn time. It's either hot or it's cold. It's one or the other. And it's like kind of cool in that way.
and in all weather, there's some animal trying to kill you whenever you walk out the door.
I'm armed and ready. It's okay.
Perfect.
I can't have a gun, so I got a knife.
Yeah, you're such a guy. Yeah, well, thanks for doing this, man. It's been a long time since we chatted.
Yeah, there's a lot's happened in the world, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some topics here. Have you been following the elections over here at all?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Yeah, I was wondering because now you're kind of unusual because you actually do know a lot about American politics.
Mm.
I'm always very impressed with your fluidity in American politics. It's very good. But I'm wondering, but that's not true for most Aussies, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't think most people follow politics at all as a rule. I think,
Yeah,
you'd be in the 2 to 5% of people that actually watch that and then actually understand it. Most people that look at it think, what's that all about? What are they screaming and shouting at each other again for? Like, what's all that about? They're just too busy going about their lives, man, to even give it any attention.
yeah. I mean, even here, in my opinion, the election doesn't really start until like the second week of September. Because it's summer here, so people are enjoying the summer. They're out taking their vacations and they're living their lives. So I think the vast majority of Americans don't really pay any real close attention to stuff until like 6 weeks before the election. Then they figure, oh, I'll get caught up then. I'll see what's going on. So that's why I don't put a whole lot of stock in the polling that goes on right now because again, I don't think a whole lot of people are really engaged. And unfortunately, I think we just have such a low IQ, low information, population. They that's why this Harris character can be neck and neck with Trump because people just they're too lazy to learn anything. Otherwise, uh, I
the,
mean,
the the gaslighting that has been happening from the Democrat side in the last couple of weeks has been next level, man. I don't know how they get away with it or how they possibly can pretend like nothing is wrong and they're saying all the things that they're not going to do, but that's what they are doing. The gaslighting is unbelievable. It became. I started listening very closely to what fucking Camel Toe was saying. I can't think of a proper name, something to call her. I got to think of something derogatory to call the socialist
that
communist.
was a pretty good
You have to
one.
be you
Yeah.
have to be careful because she's not a fool. And actually, when I was watching her speech the other day, she was quite articulate and she was a little bit funny and she was quite charismatic. And if you put all that nonsense that's happened in the last couple of years aside, you would be forgiven for thinking if you never saw her before, you'd think, oh, she's actually pretty good because she spoke well. But the gaslighting that was going on there is just out of control. It's just hard to believe how she can get away with saying those things and lying so blatantly to the American public. But as you say, people are low information voters and they're not interested in politics. They don't care about that. They're too busy working their job, looking after their family and trying to pay their bills to give any attention to it. And I think that the problem is that it's such a polarizing topic that people are unable to have any sort of opinion about it because no matter what opinion they have, there's nothing that they can do about it. And it's very frustrating for people to see this crazy, they're talking about a housing crisis. And now we're going to give new home buyers a $25,000 grant for a housing. But it doesn't make any sense because you're gaslighting the American public because you just let in like there's 30 to 50 million illegal aliens in your country. You're the ones that created the housing crisis. And now you're saying there's a housing crisis that you're going to come and fix. And she's the one directly responsible for creating the housing crisis as the borders are. The gaslighting is just off the scale. And then I started paying much closer attention to it when she said she was talking about fixing the prices of groceries. And that's a very, these low information voters in America and the United States better become high information voters real soon, because that's what causes famines. That's what caused the famine in Mao's Great Leap Forward. That's what caused famine in Venezuela. That's what happened in Zimbabwe. These communist dictatorships that think that they're able to control prices, it just doesn't work. And it causes, it's very scary, man. It causes famine. Like, there's no food, but there's nothing for people to eat. And pretty quickly, all the deer in your local scrub is going to be shot and gone. All the fish are going to be gone as well. And you're going to be fighting amongst each other, like shooting each other for food. It's just unbelievable, man. And that's a slippery slope that happens literally within a couple of months. And
yes,
I was thumbing through a book on my bookshelf there called When Money Dies, about the Weimar Republic after World War I, when they had all of these price controls in place and they were trying to control inflation. They were trying to print money, and they would on and on and on. Like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And it happened in the Weimar Republic really quickly, like really, really fast. And if you look at what happened in Venezuela, it happened really fast. How did that happen? Like, really slowly at first, and then kaboom.
yeah.
And it's just scary, man, that if she wins, the United States will turn into a communist country within 2 to 3 months.
Well, it could. I mean, if she actually implements, now you got to wonder how much of her rhetoric is pandering. She doesn't really mean it, and how much of it they really want to do. And if they do really want to do it, can they really get them enacted? And the scary part is, well, yeah, given the nature of our modern political parties, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of Republicans that I don't have a lot of use for as well. You know, we basically have a uni party here, right? So it's all about power. It's all about staying elected, and the way you get elected by keeping the masses happy, by giving them free stuff until nothing's free. It all comes. Now, you mentioned famine. Well, I don't really see it as famine, because famine, it kind of denudes, it kind of refers to like a natural event, like the topsoil all gets blown away. But what happens in those price fixing, economies, it creates destitution and desperation, because there's no motivation, there's no incentive to produce, and so you get the Soviet Union, you get the Soviet Union that I grew up with, that I grew up knowing. We had the propaganda, we had the images of Russians. There's that one movie that Robin Williams was in called Moscow on the Hudson. You ever see that? Okay. Yep. And so Robin, he plays a Russian, in Moscow. He's a musician, and he goes to the grocery store and he stands in line for the chicken line, and then he stands in line for the shoe line, and he stands in line for the toilet paper line, and he goes on the shoulder line. The line goes on for like 5 blocks. And he gets in line, and he comes home with like 3 rolls of toilet paper, and the family is so happy that they got the 3 rolls of toilet paper. And the shelves at the grocery store, are barren. And then he moves to America, and he goes into a grocery store, and he says, "Coffee line?" He says, and the guy says, "Oh, the coffee's in aisle 7." He says, "No, so coffee line?" He said, "Yeah, coffee's over there, but there's no line." So he goes into the coffee. There's piles and piles of coffee, and he like faints because there's so much coffee there. That was the image that we had. America versus Russia, right? We did it the right way. Capitalism versus socialism and communism, and nowadays it's almost flipped. I mean, we are racing toward communism head on with these policies that she wants to enact. I did a video a couple of days ago on that topic, titled, "Do they even know that they're communists?" Because their policies they are right out of the Soviet playbook.
They are. They absolutely are. There's a great documentary that's come out in the last couple of weeks called Beneath Sheep's Clothing, and it's about the communist infiltration of your school system in the United States. Everything from elementary school all the way up to university and college levels, of course. And it explains how that takeover has actually happened. And I think you might be right, where they don't even realize that they're communists. But the communist ideology is all about the oppressed and the oppressor, and it's all about fairness. But if you, I listened to Jack Posobiec's book a couple of times in the last few weeks. I've been driving a bit, and his book is called Unhumans. And the way that he describes communists is as unhuman, because their behavior is unhuman. And they have these really attractive ideas on the front end of oppressed and oppressor. And it's all about fairness. And it's all, but oppressed and oppressor can be applied to anything. It can be applied to men in women's sport, women in men's sport. It can be applied to women hitting the fictitious hypothetical glass ceiling in the corporate environment, the oppressed versus the oppressor. That's where all of this DEI bullshit comes out. And the DEI stuff that we have, it should be called DIE, because that's what it is actually doing. It's killing people. The DIE ideas are communist ideas. It's oppressed versus oppressor. And it's all about the underlying principles is all about fairness. Well, it's not fair that they have more than you. And it's not fair that you don't have as much as what they do. So in communist ideology, what they'll do is seek for equality, yeah, and not equity, equality. Everyone should be the same. But when everybody is the same, that means I have to come and take your assets, Ed. And the government will seize your assets, they'll seize my assets, and they'll seize everybody's assets, and they'll redistribute them. But that's the fundamental flaw that these people don't understand about socialism, is there is never a redistribution of the assets that are seized. And we can see that in the example of the Holodomor in Ukraine, when they said some people were denoted as kulaks, yeah? And those kulaks were farmers that had maybe 2 or 3 employees. They had a couple of cows, and they were a little bit more successful than other farmers. And Stalin said, no, everyone has to be the same, and we have to redistribute everything. So they would come along and they would seize their farms. They would take everything. They would eat all their food and kick them out of their homes, and they had nowhere to go. And it ended up in a place where the government is trying to make everybody the same to make it fair. And there was times there that parents had to make a decision about killing and eating their kids because they didn't want the neighbors to come over and kill and eat their kids. And if you don't think that can't happen in the United States under a socialist society, you're wrong, because it happened there in Ukraine in the 1930s. It's happening in other parts of the world. The apocalypse is happening all day long, every single day. It's just not happening everywhere all at once. If you go into Gaza, there's an apocalypse. If you go into Syria, there's an apocalypse. If you go into downtown Tehran, there's an apocalypse. And likewise, if you go down into Minnesota, there's an apocalypse somewhere. Somewhere it's going on, and it's happening here as well in Australia. It's just the same. It's just not happening everywhere all at once and not affecting everybody. But it's a horrendous time that we're living through. And these people are exacerbating it because they don't realize that all of these ideas have been tried before and they're all going to fail. And that's not going to affect them. Their failures don't affect them.
Nope. They will become the oligarchs in the system. Well, they are the oligarchs. You and I. This is one of our pet topics. We talk about this. In pretty much every conversation we have. But, the whole idea behind how many times have we said that the socialists and the communists, they have a built-in advantage over us capitalists in that their philosophy is easy to sell. It's sexy to sell because
fairness. It's all based on fairness.
Yeah,
that applies to everything.
Yeah. For those people who are lazy or they feel somehow a victim, then this is a very sexy message to them. It's a very alluring concept that they can get free stuff or they can get easier stuff. In China, where a surgeon makes just as much as a dentist, who makes just as much as a construction worker. There's no real incentive to go to the trouble of becoming a surgeon. You may as well just become a construction worker. We're in capitalism. There's a little thing called accountability. There's a little thing about return on investment. There's a little thing
Work
about
hard, get rewarded.
Working hard. Yeah, working hard. And
that's why they get paid so well under a capitalist society, because everyone knows how difficult it is to become a surgeon. You have to go to medical school, do an internship, and then you have to become a surgeon. Then you have to go through all the internships there. By the time you get spat out the other end of the system, it's 15 years of education. Now you can actually cash in. Now you're going to start making some money. Now you're going to get there. But who's willing to put in 15 years of hard work, sweat, blood, tears, all of that stuff to affect their family? Well, if there's no incentive to do that, why would anybody do that? And that's why capitalistic systems work far better. They're not perfect, but it's the best of the worst systems that are out there.
I think it's pretty close to perfect. The capitalist system,
meritocracy, yeah,
meritocracy. You're rewarded for your work. You're rewarded for your efforts. You're rewarded for your suffering. And I think at the core of communism and socialism is envy. And people, they're envious that that guy has a nice house. Well, that guy had to probably bust his butt to get that nice house.
It's not fair that he has a nice house.
That's right.
It's not fair that that family has that hot car. It's not fair. And that's the socialist ideology. But here's something that I learned from Jack Posobiec in his book Unhumans, which I'd never heard of before. He said all the isms, all the communism, capitalism, socialism, collectivism, those isms, they're all just tactics. Yeah. So they're tactics for the same things. You could probably put capitalism to one side, but capitalism is still a tactic to get you what you want. And communism and socialism is not an ideology at all. It's a tactic to seize power. So what they do, and you can see it throughout in that book, Jack and his oppo, they do a really good job of documenting these communist regimes. And it always ends the same way, with somebody in absolute power, with absolute control from a centralized position. And it comes undone for that exact reason. So it always starts out with the oppressed and oppressor ideology and the fairness ideology. It's not fair that you do that. It's not fair that he's a surgeon and he gets paid $5,000 a day. It's not fair that he should do that. And if you look back at Cambodia, which is rarely spoken about, and in Pol Pot's regime, when Pol Pot seized power, Pol Pot got everybody that wore glasses and killed them because they could read and write. And it was the assumption that their literacy was better because they had glasses and they could read and write, and therefore they needed to be eliminated because they were a threat to his regime. If you just rewind the clock 20 or 30 years earlier than that, you'll see Stalin did exactly the same thing. The reason that Stalin went around and knocked on everybody's door and got all people's neighbors to report on each other is because Stalin was worried that somebody was going to come for him and seize his power. And it's all the same thing. They start off with this oppressed and oppressor mentality, which is based on fairness. That's the methodology that they use. That's the tactic that they're using to seize power. Mm-hmm. And once they seize power, they centralize everything at the cost of everybody else. And then they eliminate all of their opponents. That's what Hitler did when he seized power. Hitler came to power and he got rid of everybody that was in opposition. There was only one party, the NAZI party. And what has Zelensky done? Zelensky seized power. There's no more elections. There's no more opposition. There's no more media other than state media. You're not allowed to film anything in Kyiv. You're not allowed to do any of this bullshit. It's exactly the same thing. He might not appear as a communist or as a socialist, but the strategies and tactics that he's used have allowed him to seize absolute power until we say he can't be there anymore. That's the difference with this guy. Yeah. But with the other tyrants of history, of the Pol Pots and the Stalins and the Hitlers of history, those people had absolute power. They own that, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's no question about that. But their strategies to get there and their tactics to get there were socialism and communism or fascism. And the fascism stuff that we see is in today's society, we see fascist things all around. It's just not allowed to be called that because you think that you're some sort of, shaved head, bloody skinhead, fucking swastika wielding, flag wielding dickhead like this. But the reality is, fascism is public-private partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Communist Society of China, we have the communist commissar inside of the public company, making sure that the company is working in the best interest of the party. And a good example of that, you were talking about movies before, was in the movie The Hunt for Red October.
Red October, I think it's the same thing.
October, there's the commissar who has absolute power over the nuclear submarine and nuclear weapons. And Captain Ramius is like, I don't know, he fucking slipped on his tee.
Broke his neck.
He slipped on his tee and broke his neck. Like, really? Communism, what I learned from Jack Posobiec is those communism and socialism is the tactic that they use to seize absolute power. And it ends the same way, where they centralize control and it comes undone because of the centralized control. That's how the USSR came undone. That's how Cambodian regime came undone. That's how who's some other ones that came undone like that? Has Fidel Castro come undone like
Cuba,
that?
Czechoslovakia. You referenced the Weimar Republic earlier, and as an illustration about how quickly an economy can unravel. And I'm working on a video right now for my channel, on that topic and the importance of gold and silver and preserving your buying power. And it doesn't take very long. It took 4 years between 1919 and 1923 for the German mark to go from 1 to 1 in the German mark to gold, because back then you can go into the bank and you can exchange it, for gold. So you can buy 1 ounce of gold, for 1 mark. And then within 3 years, it went to 1 billion to 1.
It's just
how many times
it's hard for you to comprehend how big a billion is, right?
Yeah.
But for that to happen in that 4 year, but think about the last 4 years of the US economy. 80% of the world's currency supply was printed in the last 4 years.
That's right.
Same here in Australia, same thing. Because of COVID, it's like the deliberate demolition and the deliberate destruction of your economy.
Yeah. Yeah, our currency, the U.S. dollar, the King dollar, it's still the world's reserve currency, but it's quickly diminishing. And there are events coming up here that could accelerate the demise of the U.S. dollar. One of those developments, of course, is the acceleration of the BRICS alliance, and where they have a stated goal of attacking the U.S. dollar. We have country after country right now choosing to conduct local business between countries, international business in their local currencies instead of using the U.S. dollar. So we're losing that status, and as they do not need U.S. dollars, those dollars are going to come flooding back to America, and hyperinflation.
Here comes your hyperinflation, baby.
Yeah, it is coming. So so we could have a Weimar Republic event. There's fiat currencies have a 100% failure rate throughout history. Not one reserve currency has ever lasted. They've all failed.
There's another book that I've been reading recently. It's about civil wars and how civil wars start, and there's a common theme that runs throughout the book, and it's about you see this coming, man, and everybody is like, no, that's, who would have thought that would ever happen here? No, we never thought that. And it's just the optimism bias that everybody has as a human being. Humans are optimistic about things. They want things to be really good. Things are good, and that's as good as it's going to get. It's not going to get any better. But all of a sudden, it unravels, and the same mentality affects people who, no, they're not going to do that. The government wouldn't do that to us. They told us it was safe and effective. They're not trying to poison us. They're not trying to get rid of us. They're not trying to delete us. Then the government wouldn't deliberately destroy the economy, would they? The pharmaceutical companies wouldn't deliberately poison people, would they? And did you watch RFK's?
I was just going to ask you.
yesterday?
I was just going to ask you whether you. Yeah, I watched it. I watched it like 4 times. It was a brilliant. I think it's a speech for the ages. I actually posted that entire speech on my channel for people to watch it for quick reference. I
don't think people realize what they're watching. It's a fundamental shift in the political system that you have there in the United States. You've got like a lot of countries in the world, you've got a two-party preferred method of doing it. How you get there doesn't really matter, but it's really just, it's left or it's right, it's blue or it's red. It's the same thing here in Australia. Even though we have the Westminster system, it's still the same sort of thing. But the point is, somebody that was on the blue side has crossed the Rubicon onto the red side. And that is a fundamental shift in and around how the liberal side of politics has come to the conservative side of politics, and how those things have actually flipped, where it used to be that the liberal side of politics was for the workers, they were for the unions, they were for people's rights, and we were for the blue collar people, we were there. But actually it had flipped around the other way in the last couple of years, and now it's gone full circle here with RFK going back to what really matters. He doesn't agree on everything that Trump's talking about, but the things that we can come together on that are bipartisan actually make sense from both sides. And it doesn't matter about political alignment or political affiliation. What matters is about protecting the American people and using the resources that you have to solve that problem. That's a really good coming together moment. And I think that could be a watershed moment in your political history there in the United States.
It could be the kernel of a sea change. It's a very big could. That's a very big word. The problem is, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right? And our all of the leaders in the two parties that we have, particularly on the Democratic side, they've all been in power for 50 plus years.
It's crazy, yeah.
Right?
Who would want to do anything for 50 years, man?
I know, right? I know, right? Well, they're power. You have to think. They enjoy the power. The seas part for them wherever they go, and people listen to them. It's got to be a real opiate to think that you wield.
I just wanted to ask you, like, I thought you lived in a democratic republic where people had to say who was going to be the boss of the given party. But Camel Toe was appointed there and nobody's had any say. And I understood from some legal minds there in the US and some, soundbite reports that I hear in mainstream media that it's actually illegal for them to do that, because the whole political process has laws and structure all around that. And they're breaking a whole bunch of laws by appointing her and not allowing the members of the party to have a say about who should or shouldn't be there.
Well, not really. I mean, the DNC, the Democratic Party, they're a self-contained entity. They can make whatever rules they want to make. Now,
if that's how they want to do it, then that's okay.
Yeah. Now, whether the voters hold them accountable for being so corrupt, that's a different story. And right, I mean, I'm always amazed at how much Americans put up with by the political parties anyway. Look at the stuff that people put up with. They put up with, okay, so I am in Minnesota where, Tampon Tim is from, so this is my home turf, okay? And during the worldwide flu that we had, he instituted a snitch line for people, so people could call and turn in their neighbors who weren't wearing their mask properly and breaking whatever rules. Hey, Minnesota is a very liberal state, primarily because of St. Paul, Minneapolis. If you go outside of the two cities, you go to rural Minnesota, it's all red. They're all conservative. But just like everywhere in the country here, all the population, the liberal population, is concentrated in the cities. But he got elected, governor. So this is a guy doing the thing that he does. He's a favorite son of China, for example. He's a
CCC plant, man.
Yeah.
You can't go back and forth to mainland China as many times as he did and live there and not have some commissar come knocking on your door. Who are you, man? You're in the military, and he was over there while he was still in the military, and he has security clearances and all of this stuff. What was actually going on there? And then he's gaining all of these favors. He's getting all of that stuff. It's a little bit like, dare I say it, this platform that we're on, where they're the ones that decide who gets to the top.
Yep.
It's not the algorithm is completely manipulated. They give you some algorithm. Well, if the algorithm was real And it was based on what all the things that you were telling me. Show it to me. But nobody really knows how SEO works. Nobody really knows how the algorithms on these social media platforms work. All we do know is that on the other side of these platforms, there's a whole lot of automation, but there's also people there that go, put that one to the top, put that one to the top. And when somebody is canceled, we know this. We know this because people who have been cancelled have come out and said it. Andrew Tate said it. Nigel Farage has said it. Katie Hopkins has said it. They come out when you get cancelled, everything goes away all at once. Your Uber account goes away. Your PayPal account goes away. Your Wise account goes away. Your bank accounts go away. Your Gmail, your Yahoo, your Hotmail, all of it goes away all at once because it's all connected and somebody just hits the self-destruct button and cancels them. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. No. So circling back to your point about camel toe, she has 0, 0, 0, 0, not one. She didn't win any primaries. She doesn't have any delegates. She didn't check all the qualifications in order to be the nominee. She was installed. Okay. So all the delegates in that convention hall, their votes were denied to them. Okay, so why aren't these people up in revolt? Why aren't
the gaslighting is just next level? And it's amazing how short-sighted and stupid those people are sitting in a stadium with these people, where if you rewind the clock 6 months ago, she was absolutely despised within the democratic institution. She was hated. She was hated by the mainstream media. And how did she suddenly become the darling of mainstream media? The same people who have got their finger on the cancel button have got the one on the promote button all at once. And they say the same things all together in unison all at once. It's alarming how people can't see that. But then they just say, or anything could be better than him. Anything could be better than that. And I just question it's not real, man. The whole thing's not real.
No, it's not real. I mean, when you have the entirety of the mainstream media acting as your propaganda arm, it doesn't matter what you do. They're going to get you over the finish line. They're going to carry your water for you. They're not going to complain that you never do an interview or answer any tough questions. Instead, they're going to do a puff piece on you, talking about how great your Indian curry is. And so a presidential election is primarily these days a popularity contest. It's all about who has the best PR. Now you get someone,
but that was reflected. I saw a statistic where in the DNC conference in the first couple of days, I think it was the first 2 days, that they'd mentioned Donald Trump 136 times. But in the same time period, they'd mentioned in the other side with the Republicans, they'd mentioned Joe Biden twice.
Yeah.
And that's because they're talking about policy. They're talking about what we're going to do, how we're going to fix this, and how we're going to solve these problems. But over on the other side, in the DNC side, all they're doing is saying that he's shit. Whatever you do, don't vote for him. Vote for us. Okay, cool. Well, what are you going to do about it? Like, what are your policies? What are you putting forward? What's your vision for the future? How are you going to fix inflation? Nothing. None of that. What we hear from Trump and Vance is the policies.
I have a new optimistic way forward.
Well, it brings you joy and happiness.
Joy.
AKA the Nazi Party in the 1930s. That's the same slogan. Like,
Really? I mean, in California, look, you're right. Kamala wasn't elected to anything. She didn't win any election her entire life.
She's a DUI.
California is a one-party state, so you get selected, you get put up. So if you're good, so apparently if you're really good on your knees, you can end up in the White House one day.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's that's the way history is going to show. When that unauthorized biography movie, that biopic comes out.
I got to make a small prediction here.
She started on the arm of Montel Williams. Her original claim to fame was being a side chick for Montel Williams.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction. Tell me what you think.
It's the American dream. Anybody can become president. Literally.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? Yeah. You can be a hillbilly from rural America and make it all the way to be the vice president, right? That's the real dream. And then they do that and say, oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
I thought that was the whole point of it. Isn't the whole point of your entire society was to do what he's done? Like, really? And then you say that's weird? Like, what?
I mean,
It's
isn't the
weird because
model?
I'm an outsider watching it, right? I'm seeing it as an outsider, and it doesn't affect me directly, so I don't care. But it kind of does affect me because it affects what happens here in Australian society, the way America behaves. And what I've noticed is a huge increase and a huge uptick of American military activity here in Australia. A couple of B-2 stealth bombers here, F-22s, all sorts of shit going on with the Marines. Like we had Pitch Black, the exercise recently, biggest Pitch Black we've ever had. Everybody is here, and we're the unsinkable aircraft carrier, right? The Americans spending a gazillion dollars hardening the shelters in Tyndall because we need to park the B-2 somewhere and the B-1s, and we need to be able to shoot cruise missiles at China from here. And, there's a big uptick of all of that. So it definitely does affect us. But I'm going to make a small prediction here. I could be way off the mark, but, if you can think like the enemy, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and I'm trying to think like the enemy, Kamala is drifting towards the debates, and she's going to get eaten alive by Donald Trump. And likewise, Tampon Tim is drifting towards the debates with JD Vance, and JD, as the lawyer, is going to stomp on this guy from a great height and get rid of him permanently. And the emperor and empress are going to be shown to have no clothes. And my prediction is that before they get there, they're going to shoot down Trump's plane. They're going to fly a drone into his face, or they're going to lob a small, low-yield tactical nuke somewhere around Mar-a-Lago, aka Alex Jones style is predicting that as well. But I think the timeline for that happening is moving up because Kamala is riding the wave of positive publicity because, as you say, the mainstream media is carrying her water, even though everyone knows it's like nonsense, but it's still happening and it's working, and they'll do anything, absolutely anything to hold on to power. And I think that they're going to try and kill Trump, blame it on Iran. We said this ages ago. I think we said this about a year ago. Blame it on Iran, start a war. And no, there's no election, man. We can't have a fucking election while we're at war with Iran. What are you talking about? That's not going to happen. And how we get there is just semantics. But you can't have a third of the US Navy in position to strike them and moving assets all into the Middle East, into Qatar, into the UAE, and all of those places. It's all happening on the down low. But if you look at the open source intelligence, you can see it all happening. That can't not happen. And we need a trigger. What's the trigger? What are they going to do? Just go over there and do that? But the Iranians are going, we're not doing that. What are you talking about, man? You fucking can't trust them. Can't trust them. Can't trust them. Well, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're telling you, we're not doing that. But we don't believe anything you say. So here, eat a JDAM, eat a JDAM, and then off we go.
The thing is, though, I don't think the Democrats want to attack. They like Iran, man. They're butt buddies with Iran, right?
But nothing's working.
They're fond of sending pallets of cash to Iran. So
there's not enough dead people to win the election with. There's not enough mail-in ballots to win the election with, and the Republicans have got everything in place to stop them stealing the election. Okay, listen, I don't think that they can steal it.
That's a pretty big prediction. I'll tell you this though: if they do make another assassination attempt, they better fucking get it right, because
that's what I'm saying. They're not going to miss this time round.
Yeah, because otherwise, this guy be, I mean, martyr be too soft of a word for what he'll become. So.
Where do you think it unravels to there? If you play that out, like they tried to do it once and nobody has been held accountable yet. The woman who was the boss of the Secret Service fell on a sword, but she's still not accountable. She quit her job. That was it.
Oh, and it took her 2 weeks before she finally did it. So well, that's it, right? They can slow walk anything,
and that's what they're doing.
Yeah. So they can knock him off, and we won't. The report on it, the commission. We'll get the report 2 years from now about what actually happened.
Do you think you'll get to the election?
Yeah, I do.
How can you have an election if there's no candidate on one side?
Well, wait. So what are you asking me? You asked me, do I think he's going to make it to the election? Right? Yeah. I think he's going to.
You think Trump will make it? You think they won't try and get rid of him again?
No, I don't.
So how are they going to maintain
hold on.
power? Because they're doing.
I wouldn't be surprised or shocked if they knock him off. Okay, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But uh, but yeah, look, if I thought that, if I walk out my door, I might get hit by a car, I'll never leave the house, right? You can't live that way. You can't live that way. So I choose to believe that, yeah, he's going to make it to the election.
Look, there's the optimism bias, man, and you're falling into that category, the same as that Civil War book and all the interviews, man, where people say, "You bet you never thought that was going to happen." No, we never saw that coming.
Look, it's the same optimism. It's the same optimism bias I have, that when I go to bed at night, I'm going to wake up in the morning. It's,
That's good.
If I lose that bias, I'm fucked.
What's the point of anything? Yeah,
I'll have to go on all those pills that RFK says I shouldn't be on.
I'll tell you what I did yesterday. I might surprise you, man, but I made a fundamental decision and a shift yesterday. I couldn't quite do it, but I made a decision. So it'll happen today. I couldn't quite do it yesterday because I had to change my password on my X account. But I decided yesterday that I'm going to delete my X account. I couldn't remember the password, so I had to change it, and then you can't do anything for 24 hours, and that'll be later this afternoon. But I'm going to delete it completely, and that's I'm going to make that go away.
So, so no more Rob Brus OnlyFans page.
No, that's it. It's gone. Okay. See ya.
Okay, so why?
Well, I decided that it is the most negative place on planet Earth, and social media, in its initial conception, was meant for the CIA to learn everything about you and to be under complete and total and absolute surveillance the entire time. Wow, and I don't care about that because I'm not out there doing the wrong things. But I see the slow walked, deliberate destruction of our society through that platform. I see it. I see these idiots calling for free Palestine. Meanwhile, there's head choppers in Qatar and the Qatari government sitting down with the Australian government, allowing all of that to happen. Like all of this madness and nonsense in there. And I came right to the end of my tether with all of it when I realized that I don't think I've ever said anything positive there, ever. All I've ever done is spent my time scrolling through that feed, commenting on other people's things, saying, no, that's completely incorrect. Maybe you should go and get a history lesson. Maybe you should remember this is what happened here. This is what happened there. And the final straw came when X is putting into my feed via the algorithm where it says it's got two sides, right? For you or who you follow. And the who you follow thing is a bit of an echo chamber. So I don't look at that too much because it's an echo chamber of things that are the same things as me. But the for you thing is the algorithm serving me thing. And it keeps serving me things about a universal basic income. And
really,
there are people out there that genuinely believe that a UBI is a good thing. There are people out there that genuinely believe communism is a good thing. There's real life human beings out there saying that the men in Afghanistan should not be imposing their will on the women in Afghanistan. And they're tarring all men with the same brush and saying that all men are as bad as the men in Afghanistan. And I'm like, you know what? I can't take it anymore, man. I can't take it. Because the women that are saying that all men are the same as the men in Afghanistan get in the car that was invented by a man, created by a man, and built by a man, and drive on the road that was created by a man to the building that was built by a man to was doing. And I'm like, that's enough. And you're the same person shouting for a universal basic income while saying climate change is real and that a man can be a woman. And I'm like, I can't take it anymore, man. My head's going to fucking explode. The Australian government, a federal court judge on Friday said that a man claiming to be a woman was on a female-only dating app, had ruled in his favor, in the man's favor, saying that you can't discriminate against a man. But it's a female-only app. So the federal court judge is saying that a man can be a woman. And I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I hope you all fucking burn in hell, a lot of you.
Was that here? Was that here or there?
No, here in Australia.
Okay. Well, okay.
There's a court case where a trans man, which is a chick with a dick,
Yeah.
a man pretending to be a woman,
Yeah.
is on a female-only platform, and
Yeah.
he's saying that you're discriminating against me by saying that I'm not female.
Yeah.
And a federal court judge here in Australia ruled in his favor. And I'm like, fuck you. A lot of you can fucking burn in hell. I hope this fucking place burns down. I don't care anymore. There's nothing I can do, man. I can't save you from yourself.
Well, this woke syndrome, what does Jordan Peterson call it? The woke
woke mind virus.
The woke mind virus, right? And you know, you see an interview with Elon Musk about what happened to his son.
Yes,
and how he's on a personal mission now to destroy,
destroy it.
Woke mind virus, because they pretty much, killed his son. That's those are the freaks. That is, I mean,
I'm worried for you, man, in America, because that's actually, if Camel Toe wins, that's the socialist society that you'll be in, like that, man.
Tampon Tim. Tampon Tim's going to be leading the charge. He's going to become the tampon czar. Throughout the country. He instituted a policy where, get this, you're going to love this, Rob. Where if you're a minor and you want to have sex transition surgery, but your parents won't allow it, you can come to Minnesota, and Minnesota is a sanctuary state for you. Your parents will not be able. So if I'm talking about minors now, right? Below 18, you can come to America. We will give you a safe haven. We will take care of you. We'll feed you. We'll give you the surgery for free. This is a policy here in Minnesota. Another policy here in Minnesota is free college education for illegal immigrants.
Didn't you live through that during college, where there was a bunch of people with a certain skin color that were, had what was called affirmative action?
Yeah.
Like,
how did you get here?
You got to be on that course because of what you look like? What the hell?
Yeah, and it doesn't do them any favors, because when that black doctor, he might be very good at what he does, but there's people are always going to suspect he's only a doctor because of favoritism, and he
still had to work hard to get his credentials and
like the
make
airline,
it happen. Yeah, it doesn't do any favors at all.
Yeah. But like the airline pilots, if you see two women pilots, they might be perfectly good, but you have to wonder if they only got the job because they have tits. Is that the only?
You'd like to hope not.
Yeah, right.
You'd like to hope not.
Yeah. So that affirmative action crap doesn't do anyone any favors, in the long run. But okay, so this disease, this wokeism disease, this can only be created in successful societies, so we are kind of like victims of our own success, in the sense that we don't have to
I thought that too.
We don't have to
I thought that too. But it's
go ahead.
But it's a tactic, man. Yeah. Don't be drawn in. That is part of it, but the other part of it is it's a communist tactic. Yeah. And it's a communist tactic to separate families. Yeah, because the nuclear family is the most important thing that holds and underpins society. A mum and a dad. Sometimes mum and dad are not together, but if mum and dad are together, that underpins everything. Because education, before the current education system, and this is really well spelled out and laid out in the documentary called Beneath Sheep's Clothing, and it's about how communism gets inside of society. And it takes you right back to the beginning of the education system, which was created in Prussia in the late 1800s. And when you think of the education system and how it works, but kids turn up to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, they sit down at their desks at 8:30 in the morning, they have a roll call, the bell goes, they go to the next lesson, they go again. It's the same school system that was designed to create slave labor in the 1800s by the Prussians. And before that public school system existed and we could brainwash children, the responsibility of education came around the dinner table with mum and dad.
Yeah.
Education system Most of us lived in a rural setting back in those days. And in that rural setting, you were required to contribute to the family. You were required to get an education, to learn things. And your mum and your dad and your family were the ones that were the guiding principle. And under communism and Marxist Leninist ideology, they get in between that. They drive a wedge between that. What does mum know? What does dad know? And what you're talking about with Tampon Tim and his stupid Century City ideas is a communist tactic that they're using to divide families, and the state knows better than the family. And when the state knows better than the family, what they're attempting to do is to centralize control of everything. And they're trying to control what happens and how somebody is raised. And in only 1 or 2 generations, you can take over the society. But it's been far more than 1 or 2 generations, because all of this ideology was inserted into American and Australian society in the 1980s. And here we are 40 years on for it. So it's like 3 or 4 or 5 generations of this ideological view that the state knows better, that the state can control things better than what the family can actually do. And that's why communism, when you look at it like from that perspective, is a tactic that they use to seize power and control. And once they've seized power and control, they don't redistribute the power and control. They don't do that. In no communist society have they ever done that. And that's why it's so dangerous, with Camel Toe potentially on the cusp of winning your election, because the fairness and the oppressed and oppressor class are not going to be looked after. It actually ends up worse under these communist ideologies than ever before. Then if you rewind the clock to before they were in charge, it was pretty shit. But once they were in charge, it's even worse. And even more people die as a result of it. And people die because of starvation. It's like horrendous. And you're drifting towards it. Like, stop.
Again, it doesn't take very long to unravel a system, to unravel a society, an economy.
Months. It will only take months for you to drift into that communist ideology.
Right.
You'll become a communist state in months.
I mean, look at the damage that the Biden administration did in just 3.5 years.
Oh my God.
We were on a pretty solid track there going into the end of Trump's presidency. And if it hadn't been for that worldwide flu, it would have ended on an even stronger note.
Well, that's how they stole the election.
Yeah,
because they couldn't win the election fair and square.
I agree.
They stole the election with the mail-in ballots, man. That's how it happened.
Yep. Amen. Yep. Now, the other side of that coin is, if you can get a handle, if you can get a start before we hit critical mass, before we hit that, that tipping point that you cannot come back from, we do have a chance of turning things around. There is a chance. And are
you sure?
Well,
there's been a few things in France and England where those people only had 30% of the vote. Same here in Australia, man. The Prime Minister of Australia came to power because of a coalition, and he only had only 30% of Australians voted for the Australian Labor Party. Likewise, in the UK, only 30% of people voted for Keir Starmer, and same in Marie Le Pen was winning in France. And then all of a sudden, the rug was pulled out from under, man. These people will maintain, and if you look closely at it, the French have got what? Nuclear weapons. The British have got what? Nuclear weapons. The Americans have got what?
No. I'll give you all that. The corruption on the other side, and the sheer diabolical nature of the deep state crowd it seems insurmountable. It seems that you cannot, and maybe it is. Maybe we cannot. I mean, the idea of cleaning out, the rats,
draining the swamp,
right? Draining the swamp. Cleaning out, the festering pockets at the FBI and the CIA and the USDA and the FDA. There's so many government agencies that are so corrupted that you got to wonder whether it's possible to turn those around, or not. But RFK said something in his speech that I kind of want to ask your opinion about, because he said, so when he brought up the idea of chronic diseases, which nobody ever brings up in politics, so kudos for him just for putting it, front and center for people, as a topic. The idea of the sugar lobby and the processed food lobby is so strong, and they have corrupted our Food and Drug Administration to such a degree that we have generations now of Americans who are poisoned, and they have chronic diseases that were unheard of, 40 or 50 years ago. And now now it's routine. But he said, listen, if given a chance, in 3 to 4 years, we could make people healthy. Now, that seems like an astonishing statement to me, because, first of all, you got to wonder, well, these people are politically connected. It might be really hard to, take down the seed oil industry. But, let's say he was able to do it. Let's say he was able to get seed oils out of our food system. Look.
Well, they can regulate them out of the system is what they do, is they
there
just
you go.
pass laws, so you can't use that anymore. So yeah, get out.
There you go. I mean, look at Europe. He said, there's like 100 plus chemicals that are banned in Europe, and their food is healthier than ours. So his take was that by doing a few significant things, making a few significant changes in our food system, we could dramatically improve the health of our society. So,
the problem is that RFK is completely censored by mainstream media, and RFK that's the problem, right? Yeah. Is he endorses Trump, but nobody knows what his message is, because I think that he's just like some crazy anti-vaxxer person over here to the normal person, but his message is bipartisan. It's completely politically neutral, and no normal person would not want that, what he's talking about.
Well, that's why his association with Trump is so, earth-shaking, is because if Trump wins and he's given an actual position of power, of authority, where he can get things done, whereas normally, I mean, I think this is probably the only way for him to make any progress on those issues. There's no other way. The Harris administration, they will not talk to him. The entire Democratic, they don't want to talk to him. Everyone, all these politicians, they're bought and paid for by that industry.
Trump undermines everything. That's why
Trump is not bought and paid for. RFK is not bought and paid for. So this is, I think, a position for him in the Trump administration, the imperator that Trump would give him, is the only chance he has of making any progress in that. And even then, it might be hard for him to get anything done.
Americans don't understand. I don't know why. I'm an Aussie, man. I'm not even an American. I don't think Americans understand that how important RFK actually is. So of the hundreds and hundreds of books that I've read through my life, man, the most important book that I've ever read is The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. That's the most important book, because it debunks everything about socialism and communism and stops every idiot out there that thinks that that's a good idea of being a good idea. The second most important book that I've ever read is The Real Anthony Fauci, where he exposes everything to do with AIDS, Anthony Fauci, and vaccinations and COVID and everything that happened. And he exposes absolutely everything. And we had a modern day book burning where those books were not allowed to be for sale. The Solzhenitsyn one is allowed to be for sale, is because that was a long time ago, right? And that's in the Cold War era, and after the Cold War and all that had ended, it had come out, and it was from the other side anyway. But from our side, that book was not allowed to be for sale on Amazon. It was not allowed. You couldn't publicly access the information that he was telling you, because he's telling you the truth. Mm-hmm. And the powers that be have a vested interest in maintaining the facade of what our society is. Our society is built on a facade. You think you have the illusion of choice with left or right, but you don't, because when somebody wins 30% of the public vote, they don't actually win, but they end up in power and using tyranny to control people. It's like, it's nonsense. RFK, I'll just say this. RFK is a national and global treasure for that book, The Real Anthony Fauci. That is the most alarming, scary thing that you would ever read, because Anthony Fauci, he's not a doctor, man. He's a mad scientist, and the mad scientist had been experimenting on people for decades, man. And he was in power for decades and allowed to get away with it for decades. And that's all because of the way the system works. And the thing is, like, maybe RFK is the one that they're actually trying to get at. They knew that this is going to happen. It'll come to a crescendo. He's going to be on the same plane as Donald Trump. And guess what? Kaboom. Goodbye, both of you. And situation, no change. We'll stay exactly where we are. Man, that was Iran. Let's go bomb Iran. Let's keep the election where it is. There's no one on the Republican side that can step up to it anyway. Off we go.
Yeah.
Scary times, man. And we're end of days right now.
You know, outside of his penchant for eating roadkill, RFK is a brilliant man to listen to. And
yes,
I would encourage everybody, any opportunity you get, to listen to him in a long form format, like his interview with Tucker Carlson, and his interview with PBD. You know, those interviews, and where they allow him to just talk and elaborate on a particular topic. He extemporaneously, without missing a beat, without using filler words like he will give you details and come up with names, and he'll tell you wonderful little anecdotal stories on stuff. This guy,
it's a real deal.
Has a fascinating history, and he knows stuff. And the reason why Democrats hate him so much is they cannot refute anything he says, because everything he puts out is all fact-based. Nothing. I mean, look, I know about that book, Killing Dr. Not the real Dr. Fauci.
The real, yeah.
And tons of footnotes. He backs everything up. So that's why they don't like him, is because, like I said, he's telling them the truth, and they can't.
He's exposing the entire system for what it is, which is fake, and it's an oligarchical system where the people. And you and me have been saying this for years, man. You know, the whole entire system is rigged because it's just rigged to get people rich. And I'll put you in a position of power by backing you because you don't have your own money to back yourself. But once you're there, you got to go and help me, and I need the money from the government because I don't have that. It's it's a quid pro quo system that has existed for the last 50 or 60 years. The same thing happens here in Australia. Same shit with the unions and the Australian Labor Party. Same stuff with the Liberal Party. It's just a uni party. That's the illusion of choice. And in my mind, I feel like we're at end of days and at the end of this video game that I've played before. I've said that a couple of times, because when people start talking about a universal basic income, and when they start talking about, tampons in boys' change rooms, it's the fucking beginning of the end, man. It's only going to end one way. It's the self-destruction of Rome, where the enemy were at the gates, but they're still watching the chariot races going, oh, whatever, man, it'll be fine. Like, what do we care? And the city is literally burning down around them while they're too busy betting on the horse races, man. That's what's happening. It's the end of days. The destruction of the economy, the destruction of the family, these communist ideas that are deployed there. I'm not sure you can recover, man. There's a little bit of hope there, small amount of hope, but hope is not a strategy, and hope is not a tactic. Hope is just something you feel as a human because you have that optimism bias. And I'm afraid that the satanic demons on the other side, man, they don't care how hopeful you are. They're going to destroy you.
Hey, Rob, did you hear that Vladimir Putin instituted...
You can go there, man. You don't even have to speak Russian anymore. Maybe we should just get on a plane and go there.
That's right. So he instituted a new visa program for Westerners. It's a refugee program for Westerners.
I might go and live on the plains of Siberia, man, where there's no phone communication. I just go dig potatoes in the ground every day, whatever.
So what I loved is he titled it a refugee visa. For people in the West who want to escape wokeism.
If you're fed up. The FSB guys know how to get us talking about Russia, that's for sure.
Well, and we joke about that all the time, but I got to tell you, when
it's tempting.
Russia's kind of, when I'm looking at countries to potentially move to, Russia is on my short list.
Most Russians live in St. Petersburg or Moscow, man. There's not much more than that.
Well, I don't know. It's a pretty beautiful, big country. I'm sure they're. I'm a history buff, so I kind of like to get out. I kind of like to get to Siberia, where I'm the only American in town. I think I told you.
I watched a bunch of videos on Vladivostok as well on the other side, right? So
Yep, on the other side.
on
Yep.
my side of it, same time zone in Sydney.
Yep, by Japan. Yeah. Japan would be a good option for that. But so for those people who say, yeah, but the FSB is going to watch everything you do. Hey, how's that any different from here in America?
You can't speak out against the government there in Russia.
We can't do that here either.
You definitely can't do that in the UK anymore.
No, right. Oh, we can do a whole hour on what's going on in you poor people in UK. What the hell are you guys doing?
I know, man.
What the bloody hell?
Again, it just shows you and it proves that the entire system is fake. It's not real. You have the illusion of choice. You have an election. 30% of people vote for that loser, and then he comes to power, man, and is a tyrant. One of the worst tyrants. Who would have thought communism had a British accent? But that's actually what it is, man. It's that demonstrates, man, that proves my point that you can go from a standing start of nothing to a communist state in a matter of months, and he's proved it, which is what he's doing.
Well, in UK's case, the Islamic extremists are going to make it into parliament faster than the communists are. They're
again, it's just a version of a tactic and a strategy. That's the isms. The isms don't really matter too much, I don't think.
But goes with that hate speech law that went into effect in April in Scotland, where now the bar of the offense is whether or not you potentially offended somebody. If you potentially offended somebody on social media, you could be put in fucking jail. And people have been. Literally. And there are videos all over YouTube of the cops showing up at your houses in the UK saying that we got a complaint that you put a post on YouTube, or they didn't get a complaint. They've got divisions now on the police department to scour social media looking for potentially offensive statements.
In Jack Posobiec's book Unhumans, he talks about how to fight back against them, and it's not as difficult as you think. So they implement all of these laws and rules and policies and they do all of these things. And what he said is you have to use their tools against themselves.
Yeah.
Because they hold and maintain absolute power, and there's nothing that you could do. So what you've got to do is, in the UK example, is if you see something that the government puts out, you say that that's offensive, and then you report that to the police. And what we need to do is to come together as a society and get thousands and thousands and thousands of people to report that particular thing that person says against them. And then they have to apply the laws the same ways that they apply it to everybody else. That's how you use
how about voting these fucking people out of office? How about that?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work because the voting system is completely fake and it's not real. How does somebody with 30% of the vote end up as the Prime Minister of England with his finger on the nuclear button?
Yeah, well, that's part of that's part of the downside of countries like UK and like Australia where you have like 400 different parties to choose between.
Yep.
So
and they form coalitions, and the same thing happened in France as well. The same thing. Marie Le Pen won. She won the French election, and the rug was pulled out from under her at the last minute to keep the globalist in charge, because he's the one in charge of the nuclear weapons, man. I don't want her in charge of the nuclear weapons.
Well, before I let you go, I want to circle back to what's going on X. Now, I'm on X, but honestly, my friends, I'm only on X because Rob browbeat me for like a year to get on X, and how I had to be on X. So I am on X, and I have a little bit of a following on X, but I swear to God, I never go on X. I've gone on a few times. I don't really even know how to use it. It seems it's not very user friendly to me. For my eye, I don't. Where am I supposed to go? So I haven't taken the time to learn how to use X. But I keep meaning to, and I do expect one day to start actually using X in a productive way, but I never really have. But me and technology, I fucking hate technology. So I've got a real love-hate relationship, with technology. But you have always been cutting edge. You're on all these freaking platforms, and you use them in a very sophisticated manner, for your business and stuff. So isn't that going to eat into your life? I mean, what are you going to do when you wake up in the morning? Aren't you going to have some kind of social media withdrawal or something? Aren't you worried about
It's no, I don't think so. No,
okay.
because I thought that this morning, and because it takes 20, because I changed my password, you can't do anything for 24 hours, and it was still there this morning. I looked at it and I went, it's still just as vile and horrible as it
But
could possibly be.
couldn't you find productive things? Couldn't you just eliminate, those rooms, those that you're attached to, just delete them? So
Yeah, well, that's a good point, right? So you can curate the feed to, like, I could go back and unfollow everybody and then only go and follow a bunch of things that the algorithm presents to me that makes it really positive, like that, for sure. And that's actually, because believe it or not, the reason that I went back on X is because I had an account which was censored and cancelled. I was cancelled on X for speaking the truth about something that they didn't like. So in my previous account, I was showing combat footage of Ukrainian war crimes, and I was equally showing combat footage of Russian war crimes. I was showing them. Here's the videos, the uncensored videos. Nothing, man, no problems. You can show that all day long. You can show people getting their heads blown off, people getting blown to pieces, people hacking at each other with other sorts of things, all sorts of crazy shit that I was putting on there to show people the unspoken truth. This is what war is looking like. The Australian government has spent $1 billion of taxpayer money supporting these war crimes. It's outside the laws of armed conflict. I used to be a soldier. If I went and did that, I'd be thrown in jail forever. But you're supporting it. You're enabling it. You're giving the money. I was like, I'm angry about it, right? Like, don't give our tax dollars to support these evil fucking demons in Ukraine. And I don't care what Russia does. What do I care? We're not giving them money. Do fucking whatever you want, man. I don't care. It's got nothing to do with us. We're in Australia. You're in Europe. Do whatever you want. And then I went in there, and there was something in there about a men in women's sport. And I think it was that swimmer at that point where what was the name? I can't remember. It's happened in America. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. And so, I said, men can't be women. You can't do that. Yeah. A dude with a cock cannot fucking swim in a female race and beat her and then fucking go, I won. And my account was cancelled, man. Yeah. My account was cancelled. But I could show war crimes all day long. But the minute I say that a man can't be a woman, she's gone.
Yeah.
Then I reluctantly waded back in and tried to behave myself. And you know what? It actually happened to me again. It's on my X feed right now. And I said a couple of things about that Olympic boxer, and I said that here we are in Australia. There's this ongoing, continuous conversation about domestic violence and how that needs to be, and no normal person could disagree with that. Absolutely. I don't disagree with any of that. And whether it comes from the government or from a victim or from a perpetrator who's turned their life around, whatever, I agree with all of that. That's a bad thing. It shouldn't happen. But domestic violence has been promoted openly at the Olympics, at the #1 sporting event in the world, and they're putting it in your face. It's a little bit like handing over your personal autonomy, your personal medical autonomy to the health minister of New South Wales, Brad Hazzard, who's the biggest fuckwit in Australian history, standing there saying, you need to get this, it's safe and effective. If you don't get it, you're going to be eliminated from society and you won't be allowed to participate. Imagine handing your personal autonomy to that fool and listening to what that guy told you to do. And now they put this in your face where there's clearly a man beating the living bejesus out of a woman. Yeah, punching the piss out of a woman. And all these domestic violence people, all the feminists, everyone like that are completely silent. So I said something and they gave me a warning on my X account again. Hey, none of that, yeah? You can't say that. That's hate speech. Hate speech? What do you mean it's hate speech, me saying a man can't be a woman? Hate speech? I thought this was a platform where I could say anything. That's not hate speech. And the solution to hate speech, you taught me, is more speech. But it's not hate speech when there's a guy literally on Olympic TV beating the bejesus out of a woman. No, man, I'm out of here.
Did that happen before or after Elon?
No, after that. This was like a couple of weeks ago with the Olympics.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And before Elon was when my account was cancelled. That's why I came back, because Elon came back. And you can't really look at X without having a paid account because there's all the fucking ads in it. It drives me crazy, right? So I pay a couple of bucks, $27 a month, whatever. It's cheap. I don't mind
Yeah.
paying for it. It's okay. If you provide a good service, I'll pay for it. It's pretty
Well,
good. There's no ads. There's all of this stuff. But then all of this bullshit that's going on and all the crazy people in the world, man, I can't help you. If you don't want to read the books, you don't want to read history, you're just destined to repeat it. And you want to live in a socialist communist society, be my guest, go right ahead and do it. I'm not going to do that. It's not going to affect me. I can look after myself, right?
yeah, well, the platform that we're talking on right now, they knocked me off for a couple months for criticizing a political party. That's why I think I took a big risk actually in reposting RFK's speech in full on my channel. I'm still waiting.
Why don't they want you to see it? Why
Huh?
don't they want you to, in the political discourse of an election cycle, they don't want you to see one of the candidates? Like,
For the same,
why are they censoring this
for the
candidate?
same for the same reason. Well, listen, did you see what CNBC, I mean CBS, ABC, and CNN did to his speech while he was talking live? They carried it live, but then about 5 minutes into it, they cut him off.
Did they?
Yep.
No, I didn't see that.
Yep. Yeah.
Why?
Because he was criticizing them. Did you? He went after these people viciously, right? Now he was telling them, yeah, the corrupt mainstream media,
Oh yes, he and they went, oh yeah, we're corrupt. Piss off, get off our platform then.
He went after he spent 15 minutes talking about how corrupt the media is, and then he spent a half hour talking about how corrupt the DNC is. So,
who is funded by the big pharma, and big food,
and big tech.
Big food as well. And big
tech.
tech.
And yeah. So that's why you would think. So we do not really live in a truly free speech society. Now, listen, I am a capitalist all the way. So part of me says, well, look, the platform that I'm on right now, and X, and Rumble, and you name it, these are private companies. So they have the right to set whatever terms they want to set. If a restaurant owner says you can't wear shoes in this restaurant, that's not a state law, but it's a restaurant law. So private businesses do have the right to say who they want to do business with or not. But so that's the other side of me. The other side of me is, well, I'm a pure free speech advocate. So this is where they mesh up. So, but I don't have. I mean, what can I do? I just have to do my best to live within terms and use a lot of code words and hope that my public picks up on it.
But here's the thing, that there's no such thing as free speech. Earlier today, just before we came on here, the founder of Telegram got busted. So the founder of Telegram has been warned for years by governments around the world, shut that down, turn that off, stop this, stop that. I don't know if you play with Telegram. That's one of my primary sources to get information, because it's just people posting. Yeah, well, and they're posting, especially about the war. You can get a lot of content there. He flew into France, and the minute he stepped off the plane, the cops got him, and now he's facing 20 years in jail. And what did he do? He built the infrastructure. Yeah, he built the infrastructure that allows people to talk to each other, face like one-to-one and encrypted, and no one can stop you. No one can control you. No one can do anything. And he reported a couple of times the CIA had come to him and said, hey, can you build a back door so we can monitor it? And he went, no, not doing that. And he's a Russian guy, right? So that makes it, he's the Russian villain, man. What better villain, what better nationality than that to be the actual tech villain? And now he's locked up, man. That's just fucking bullshit, man, that you can't go out there and say what you want. Telegram is a platform that is owned by him. It's not a public company. There's nearly 1 billion users on Telegram. And now the creator and founder of Telegram is locked up because he created a platform where people could talk to each other. It's almost as if you and I were sitting down the pub or at a restaurant or at a cafe, and we're having a conversation about whatever we're talking about. And we're not allowed to do that because the commissar is over there listening in on us.
Right.
And that's the communism.
That's what it is.
And the reason that Stalin did that, and the reason that the Stasi did that, and all of these evil tyrants did that, is because they're afraid that people are saying the wrong thing about them. You get a tenner in the gulag for that in Siberia if you say the wrong thing. Wrong think in China. Yeah. Wrong. Don't you dare stand in front of that abortion clinic and pray. Wrong think. Yeah, well, you can't do that. Well, how do you know I'm doing that? It's in my mind. Wrong think is going to get you locked up. And the reason the tyrants lock you up is because they're holding on to power. And at no stage will they ever relinquish power, because absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yep.
And Stalin is the prime example of that. And everyone that came after him emulated that actual human characteristic. And we're seeing that in the United States play out. We're seeing it happen in Australia, seeing it happen at France, in the UK, in all of these countries. Now, there's a little bit of hope in Hungary, yeah, where that's not really happening.
I love that guy. I
a bit of hope in Poland as well.
Yeah,
not too bad, but they're a bunch of
Hungary,
globalists,
Hungary, Poland
sellouts as well.
Yep, Hungary, Poland.
Yeah.
Poland is probably my favorite, actually. Poland, yeah, go Poland. You guys are on the ball. You know, stick to your guns. Although they do have that new PM who is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
He's a globalist.
Yeah, he's a globalist. So you guys, you know, I hope you have buyer's remorse with that guy. He said he was a conservative, but he's not. He's not who he said he was. So a little bit of a, you know.
How do we round it out, Ed? You know, the idea of free speech is a good one. The idea of, you know, the right to bear arms and all of the constitutional rights that you have, they're all really good ideas, but they all feel like a bit of an illusion to me. And it feels like, I'll come back to where I started, man. I've seen this video game before. You know, there's a couple of levels on the shelf there behind me. When money dies, when there's a war, when there's political unrest, all of the historical books and things that I've read throughout the years, it still feels like end of days there for United States political sense, but your economy is in such deep trouble that's the undoing of it all as well. I can't see any good outcomes, man. It's like one of the analogies that Alex Jones uses, which I really like, is that the plane is crashing, and no matter what you do, the plane is going to crash. It's just the degree of severity when it hits the ground. Is everybody going to die, or are they able to pull out of it a little bit and, save it? Can gold and silver save you? I don't know, man.
Well, okay, listen. I
don't know.
I take a little bit of solace whenever I see a Trump rally and I see 10, 20,000 people and these are people these people, they're not hate-filled people. These are good quality. It's not like a liberal convention where
they're hateful people.
They're hateful, unhappy, joyless people. They're just bad people. But you see, a crowd of 20,000 people cheering on Trump because these people they're the silent majority, right? I believe that most people in the country, I think there are more people in this country with traditional values than with leftist values. Now the leftists, they're just louder, right? They can't go through a day without complaining about something. So they're loud and they shout. So they get all the press. They get all the airtime. So I think people think, well, boy, we're doomed. Everybody thinks it's okay for Target to sell tuck bathing suits, and they think that's normal, and they say, "Oh my God!" So when you see those crowds, so I think that there's a silent majority of people out there who do have traditional values, and so when things do come crashing down, maybe it'll be the U.S. dollar that goes kaput overnight, which could happen. That's why those people who are prepared, okay. Yes, be prepared. Have a closet full of a year's supply of toilet paper, toothpaste. People laughed at my channel when about a year ago I said I had a year and a half worth of toilet paper in my closet. That I can't tell you how good of an investment that was. Just with inflation,
fighting inflation, man.
Yeah. So I still got a lot of that stuff. You guys, so everyone should prep. With those practical stuff, food and the day-to-day stuff, but also in terms of get your money out of the bank, put some of your money into gold and silver, and establish streams of passive recurring. Basically, be prepared, because if you're prepared, you really don't have to be that much of a victim in the next big tremendous downside. You could actually benefit of it. In the years coming out of the Great Depression, there were a lot of millionaires made. There were a lot of
Oh, yeah.
millionaires made during the Depression because people were prepared. I'll give you one quick example. Okay, so I was doing some research for a video that I'm doing right now, and so in 1960, that's the year I was born, an ounce of gold went for $33 an ounce. $33 an ounce. The average new car cost $2,600. So let's say that my parents, who didn't have the money to do it, but just theoretically, let's say that you know what, we're going to take $2,600 that we would need to buy a new car right now, and we're going to buy gold with it, or we'll put it in a shoebox, and we'll give it to Ed when he turns 60 years old. Okay.
You'd have 78 times 2,500. You have $195,000 today.
Yeah. So
there it is.
Yeah. So and the increase in the price of a house since 1970, and the average salary during those same years, the cost of a house, the average house, has gone up 26x during that time.
Crazy.
26x since 1970. I was 10 years old in 1970. Okay, but the average wage increase has only gone up 6x during that time. So the cost of a house up 26x, cost of average salary only 6x. So, but imagine if Weimar Republic, right? Let's say in 1919 you were a pretty savvy guy and you put all of your cash into gold in Germany 1919, or in 1993 you would have had like 1 billion X
literally
on that currency. Okay, you could have owned whatever you wanted. You would have been the ultra rich. So same thing here. Now I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it absolutely could happen.
It has happened.
Gold is at an all-time high right now, my friends. Look at the chart. Okay, gold is breaking out, and if you look at the chart of gold, and if you look at the base leading up to, okay, so if you look at the chart of gold during the Weimar Republic, and you look at the pattern leading up to the burst up when went up 1,000x, it's the exact same pattern as we have right now.
Yeah,
just saying.
Food
for thought. How's the beauty pageant business going?
Beauty pageant business is turning into a reality TV show, and that's tracking along nicely. Got some things in the works here for Sydney coming up in the next couple of weeks, which is really exciting. Got a bunch of delegates that we want to line up, and we'll have some more information tomorrow, actually. So tomorrow's a kind of a bit of a catalyst for it all to see exactly where we're going. So far, so good. It's tracking along nicely, man. It's good.
Well, sometime soon, if you don't mind, we should have a conversation about that. Let people know. Is there a way for people to participate in?
We're just trying to build a model that is something that we can replicate. So what I found is I've got the model, but what I haven't got is the delegates and the cash flow from the delegates. So how are we going to find these people? And if we can't find the people, how can we fund it by getting the people from other sources? So the advertising campaigns that we've been running, they don't really work that well. I think it's just there's too few people that want to participate in something like that. And we just don't have enough clout in social media for it to actually be effective. So we're trying some other strategies, and we'll have some more clarity around that tomorrow as well. So, and I'm pretty certain that that's going to work. I'm really confident with that as well. Just going to keep, the way I describe it is you keep testing and adjusting until something sticks, and eventually something will stick. And then we've got a model that we can replicate. That's the most important thing, right? Is I don't want to have to build this business that's based on relationships if I want to take it to other places. So I want to go to other places where there's no relationships, and then just go turn on this, it's a formula, man. It's like a recipe. We've got to go through 1 through 20, and all of those things exist in that location. And it's a really good business in that sense, because you can just buy everything. Once you got the cash flow and you got the money, I just buy it and then I go and do it. So it's not, I don't need relationships is what I'm trying to say. There's a couple of things that you do need that you can't buy with money, which is creativity. You need good people. Doesn't matter how much money you pay people. Sometimes if they're shit, they're shit. If they're not talented enough or they don't have the right talent, then that's there. So that's been a bit of a learning curve as well. But yeah, tomorrow will be a big day, and looking forward to seeing how it plays out and getting the first one up and running in the next couple of weeks.
All right, well, great seeing you, mate. So
You betcha, man. Yeah.
say hi to Suze for me. So Ed Anderson, along with Rob Brus, saying good night.
See you, everyone. Bye.
All right, thanks, man.
That's all right, man. How's things in your world? All good?
Yeah, okay.
Same?
I've been trying to do this carnivore diet again, and I just, one day is, I'll do a stretch, but then one day I'm saying, what the fuck? Life's too short. This is fucking.
You're going to die the healthiest man in the graveyard. You want to die the richest man in the graveyard, not the healthiest.
Well, part of me says, yeah, well, see, RFK got it right. I'm RFK, kind of buoyed my after he did good. Yeah, he's right. I'm trying to get away from the processed food. That's a whole this. After having a lifetime in the standard American diet, it's hard to, you see a Pop-Tart, man, you know what, that looks good, or you at the gas station and see a donut. Oh man, that would really it's fucking. It's a fucking.
I learned something about dieting the other day from a YouTuber I watch all the time. His name's Ryan Humpstein. He's like a bodybuilding dude, and he's like, why do you keep fucking up your diet? And he's saying you could try this diet, and list them all, right? You could be keto, you could be carnivore, you could fast, you could do this. And he said one fundamental thing that is the same for every diet that you try is that you'll feel hungry. Yeah, because you're on diet. Because it's like you're reducing the amount of calories that you have, and the thing that helps satiate you when you're feeling hungry is carbohydrate. So if you had that Pop-Tart,
okay,
it's like you're craving the sugar that's in the Pop-Tart, and you're craving the flavors and the taste and all of those things.
Yeah.
So if that's the thing that's causing you the trouble, well, maybe you should have a diet that has a little bit of carbs in it and insert that in it.
Yeah.
And
that makes
one
sense.
way to do that is at the end of the day. So you've worked really hard the entire day with your diet, and when you come around to the end of the day, you allow yourself to have some potato or a little bit of pasta or something, it's just moderate amounts. And then that way, at the end of your day, you'll be like, oh, I feel really satisfied. And you go to bed and you're not hungry.
Well, you know what?
So
actually,
all morning and all afternoon, you're good. End of the day, that's where you
okay. Well, that makes sense. I can see that. But if you do the carnivore diet properly, whereas you're eating fatty stuff,
you don't feel hungry.
That actually is very satiating. It fills you up. So I don't really have that problem of being hungry. Really, on the carnivore, I'm really hungry. I actually eat like one meal a day now. Now when I'm on the carnivore,
oh really?
I just have like one meal because I'm just and I keep thinking that I should make myself eat something because
I haven't had anything. My body I should eat something.
Yeah, my body must need it, or if I'm sleeping, I don't want to die from hunger if I'm sleeping. No, but you're thinking I should have something. I should make myself eat something. But actually, the actual hunger. If you do it properly, if you're eating fatty stuff. Now, if you eat the lean meats, then there's not much fat there, and it's not that satiating. You're going to get hungry. So you got to eat completely different from what I was raised on, right? Where fat was bad. I don't know I don't know whether you were raised that way, but for me, I was raised
same pyramid, man. Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to think completely differently, about it. So but if I do it properly, if I'm eating the fatty meat, then I'm not. The problem with me is it just gets so fucking boring. There's
oh yes, of course, yeah.
It just gets monotony. I mean, how many times can you eat, ground hamburger and eggs and bacon? It's
once a day. That's the answer to that question.
Once a day, but it's it's just sometimes I look at that, boiled egg in front of me and I just go,
Ugh.
my heart
Ugh.
sinks.
Why
You
don't
know,
you like? Why don't you make a couple of boiled eggs with some mayonnaise and a little bit of curry and some salt and pepper?
yeah, mayonnaise is a no-no.
Oh, is it? Why?
Yeah. Why?
It's made from eggs.
I know it is, but there's a reason why it's not good for you. It's
Maybe the chemicals in it or something like that.
maybe I think there's some sugar in it too, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, there would be for sure.
Yeah, I forget why, but mayonnaise is supposed to be a big no-no actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm.
So no, look, and they say, you're not supposed to put spices on and all those things.
Really?
Yeah, the spices have carbs. Everything has a carb in it.
Like salt and pepper?
Well, salt and pepper, those are the two exceptions. Salt and pepper.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because you do want to have salt for for the potassium, for your muscles and for your brain and stuff.
But what spices can't you use?
Pretty
Like
much,
what?
pretty much any spice, pretty much all spices they have, they're carbs. I mean, if you're going to be a purist, right? But
If you're going to do it, you try and do it properly, right? That's the idea.
I'm trying to do it properly. Look, I'm not going. I'm not going to be stupid about it if I'm still a free thinking person. But I just set goals, right? I want to lose a certain amount of weight. I want to get my blood levels to a certain amount of levels. And I'm always worried. Top of mind for me right now is my cardiovascular health and my blood clot. So I'm trying to do everything I can to keep those healthy and to address those issues. I'm not that worried about I'm not fat or anything, but I can use lose a few pounds in my middle. I can do that, but that'll come off pretty easily if I do the carnivore diet. Those will come off, pretty easily. So for me,
Why don't you go to the gym a bit, man?
I should. I don't like gyms. I mean, every time I go to a gym, I get there thinking there's nothing in this fucking gym that I can't do at home.
This is true. Although you don't have dumbbells you can press with, you don't have
okay, you got those. Yeah, you got those. But I got a couple of 10-pound barbells, and so yeah, I'll grant you that. Yeah, you got those. But am I going to go through all the trouble of going to the gym just for those? And maybe I just it's just such a big production. You got to drive there. You got to go in. If it's wintertime, you got to change. You got to go change. You got to go out, and then you got to do whatever you're going to do. And it always seems like after 20 minutes or hour max, I've done everything I'm going to do. So now I've got to change again. If it's wintertime, I got to change again. Get back in the car, drive home. It just seems like such a big production when
and it is. And it is. Yeah.
When most of the stuff that I would do there, I could do at home.
Well, why don't you?
Yeah. I do. I'm going for my walks.
What the trick with like physical activity is you have to find something that's like enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I come home from the gym and Susie will say, "Oh, how was it?" And it's like it's fucking hell. I hate it. Like it's horrible. It's like it's awful. Fucking sitting on an exercise bike for half an hour and pedaling as hard as you can. Like I feel like my heart's going to burst out of my chest and my legs fucking hurt. My ass hurts from sitting on that seat, and I can't wait to get out of there. But I'll sit there for 30 minutes, right? Because it's only half an hour, and you can do anything for half an hour. So it doesn't. But I've been doing it for my entire life.
Yeah.
I think so. That might be the difference, right? Is that I've been putting myself through that in those environments for that entire time. But if you didn't grow up there and you don't like that, then going back into it to try and do something is like it's unpleasant, man. It's not nice. And equally, like if I go and it's the same thing. Like are you going to go spearfishing? Go and catch us some dinner. I'm like the whole fucking evolution of getting my wetsuit, getting my stuff, putting it in the car, getting dressed, getting in the water, getting out of the water, getting undressed, getting like, and you go in the water and fucking 10 times in a row, I can't see anything because the visibility is this far. But I go in the water and there's a fucking shark and I'm going to get eaten. Like, fuck, get me fuck out of here, man. Like,
of course, nowadays,
like the evolution of it's like, it's not fun.
And nowadays, I've got to worry about, if I'm bending over, some chick's going to take a picture of me and post it on TikTok. I don't want that. I don't want my ass all over the internet. No.
Not a good thing. All right, mate. Well, you
All right,
have
man.
a good evening. Reach out if you want to do another one, all right?
Thanks, man. Say hi to Suze for me.
Good to see you.
Bye.